Aston Martin, backed by Honda and designed by Adrian Newey, has just put a multi-million-dollar offer on the table for Charles Leclerc before the Brazilian Grand Prix. After 7 years of loyalty to Ferrari, Leclerc has endured a winless 2025 season with a car that broke down physically, strategically, and emotionally, costing him the one thing he values most: the chance to fight. If Ferrari fails again in 2026, Leclerc could trigger an exit clause and walk straight into the most promising project in Formula One. But does he dare leave the team he's loved since childhood? This is not just a contract offer. It's the moment Ferrari's golden child may finally break free, and Aston Martin might become the new empire with Leclerc at the helm. Before I tell you all the information, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and we'll continue with the news. Charles Leclerc may be on the verge of the most dramatic turning point of his Formula One career. Just days before the Brazilian Grand Prix, Aston Martin has reportedly offered the Monegasque driver a multi-million-dollar deal to join their works team for 2027. A team that will soon be powered by Honda, designed by Adrian Newey, and structured around championship ambition. The timing is no accident, and neither is the target. Aston Martin doesn't just want a driver, they want a leader. And Leclerc is at the top of their list. What makes this offer so explosive is not just the money, but what it represents. Leclerc has been Ferrari's loyal soldier since 2019. Through controversy, mechanical failure, and title collapses, he has stayed silent, steady, and focused. He never flirted with rival teams, never blamed the pit wall, never walked away when others would have. But 2025 has tested even his limits. 4 races remain, and Ferrari has not won a single Grand Prix. Not one. For a team of their size, budget, and history, it's not just disappointing, it's embarrassing. The season began with cautious optimism. Ferrari promised stability. A car that would rotate better at low speed, maintain tire life across stints, and finally stop punishing its drivers on Sundays. But as the calendar unfolded, the story fell apart. From Australia to Mexico, Leclerc's year has been a case study in underdelivery. Missed pit stops, failed upgrades, a machine that looks competitive on Friday, only to disappear on race day. And still he pushed. Still, he found time where there wasn't any. Still, he protected Ferrari from public humiliation. Now though, Aston Martin sees the cracks. They see a generational talent stuck in a loop of red frustration. They see a man approaching his 30s still, without a car that can win when it matters. And they've moved early. This offer, made even before the Interlagos weekend begins, is a message that they're not waiting until contracts expire or patience runs out. They want Leclerc now, not physically, but psychologically, to plant the seed that life outside Maranello might not be betrayal. It might be liberation. And the environment they're offering is no fantasy. With Honda's power unit, Newey's aero philosophy, and a structure built around long-term efficiency, not politics, Aston Martin is no longer a midfield dream. They're building a factory team capable of dominating the next regulation cycle. What they don't have is a proven, marketable, mentally tough race leader who can carry that transformation across 5 seasons. Charles Leclerc is that driver, and they know it. Charles Leclerc entered the 2025 season with more patience than pressure. He didn't need a championship out of the gate, but he needed proof. Proof that Ferrari was finally ready to fight smart, execute cleanly, and back their lead driver with clarity. But from the very first flyway races, that proof never came. In Bahrain, a small hydraulics glitch took him out of the podium hunt. In Jeddah, a poor tire call dropped him from contention. These weren't isolated errors. They were early signs that Ferrari still hadn't solved the execution curse that has haunted them for years. And that's where the cracks began to show, not in Leclerc's driving, but in Ferrari's direction. They brought updates, but none of them stuck. The new floor introduced in Spain failed to deliver consistent balance. The revised rear suspension, meant to help traction in slow corners, only added unpredictability under load. Every technical promise became a compromise. And through it all, Leclerc never lost his edge. He extracted everything the car had, and when the car gave nothing, he still kept it on the limit. But there comes a point where even the best can't compensate for a team stuck in reverse. The mid-season phase made things worse. Races like Austria, where Leclerc qualified brilliantly only to drop back due to strategy errors, highlighted a deeper issue. Ferrari wasn't just failing on pace, they were failing on decision-making. Missed undercuts, poor pit timing, tire selections that defied logic. Leclerc trusted the team, but the team's calls left him stranded more often than not. When a driver sees their Sunday destroyed by someone else's pit wall mistake, it does more than ruin results, it breaks rhythm. What's particularly striking is how Leclerc handled all of this. There were no radio meltdowns, no interviews filled with passive-aggressive criticism, just a quiet persistence, a willingness to give Ferrari space, even as they wasted his prime. But inside the paddock, those closest to him noticed the shift. Less time in the hospitality suite, more time buried in data, a colder tone in briefings. Not because he's given up, but because he knows this isn't a one-off. It's a pattern, and patterns, when left unchecked, become reasons to walk away. Aston Martin understands that better than most. They don't need to rush him. They don't even need to offer him immediate results. What they can offer, however, is a plan, a structure designed around accountability, not chaos. If Leclerc continues to bleed points while Ferrari blames conditions, tires, or traffic, he won't need much more convincing. Because at this point, he's not looking for an escape. He's looking for a reason to believe. And that's the core of the problem. Ferrari may still believe Leclerc is committed no matter what, but every disappointing weekend chips away at that certainty. Not because Leclerc is emotional, but because he's professional. He knows he's running out of time to wait. And the longer Ferrari drifts without a clear competitive identity, the louder the alternatives will sound. The SF25 was meant to be Ferrari's redemption tool. Months of development focused on improving what had plagued them in 2024: rear instability, tire degradation, and the car's refusal to behave in race trim. The numbers from Maranello's wind tunnel suggested progress. The suspension redesign and weight distribution adjustments looked promising. But once the season began, the car's real character emerged. It was consistent in only one thing: its failure to compete at the front. Charles Leclerc was the first to understand the car's limitations and the first to adapt. He modified his entry points to reduce instability mid-corner. He changed throttle mapping to manage tire temperatures. In qualifying, he masked the SF25's aero weaknesses by overdriving certain sequences, using his natural rotation control to stabilize a car that had no business being near the front. But in race trim, no amount of skill could hide the problem. The car simply lacked range. It was unpredictable on mediums, fragile on softs, and couldn't generate long-run pace without destroying its rear tires. Ferrari's engineers tried to chase the problem with updates, but they were mostly reactive. A new floor here, a diffuser tweak there, none of it offered structural change. The rear of the car remained too pitch-sensitive. Under braking, the car lost aero load. Under traction, it broke stability. The result? Leclerc was fighting not just the grid, but the very physics of his own machinery. His telemetry showed effort, but his lap times showed compromise. Still, Leclerc never gave up the fight. At tracks like Monaco and Singapore, where the chassis matters more than power, he was electric. He hustled the car through tight sequences, kept it alive with mechanical sympathy, and delivered laps that masked the underlying dysfunction. But as the season wore on, it became clear that he was overachieving on a foundation that couldn't support sustained success. And in sport where regulations are stable, there's no excuse for standing still. This is exactly what makes Aston Martin's approach so calculated. They're watching not just what Leclerc is doing, but what he's doing without. No preferential treatment, no top-tier machinery, no guarantees, just raw performance under limitation. For a team preparing for a post-Alonso era, that's gold. They don't want a driver who's only fast in perfect conditions. They want one who thrives in adversity, and Leclerc has done nothing but that for 3 seasons straight. If Ferrari had given him a title-contending car, this conversation would not exist. But they haven't. And now, with Aston Martin's future anchored in a Honda Works engine and Adrian Newey's design mastery, Leclerc suddenly looks like the perfect bridge between today's crisis and tomorrow's potential. Not just because he's fast, but because he's proven he can endure and evolve. By the time the Brazilian Grand Prix arrives, Charles Leclerc will have raced through 17 Grand Prix without a single win. Not one Sunday where strategy, setup, and execution all aligned. Not one weekend where the car gave him everything he needed to fight for victory. And for a driver in his prime, 28 years old, sharpened by a decade in single-seaters, this is not just frustrating. It's devastating. Because every race that passes without reward adds to a silent, internal weight that no telemetry can measure. The most dangerous consequence isn't public outrage or media pressure. It's quiet resignation. Leclerc has stopped raising his voice in briefings. He no longer questions strategy out loud. He finishes the race, does the media rounds, and walks straight into debrief. Calm, controlled, distant. This isn't the behavior of someone giving up. It's the behavior of someone who no longer expects anything different. And when that silence sets in, the damage isn't just emotional. It's institutional. Ferrari, for all their history, seem not to grasp how close they are to losing more than just a driver. Leclerc isn't just a number one. He's the face of their rebuild, their marketing engine. The driver fans still believe in even when the car doesn't deserve him. If he walks, it won't be with headlines or scandal. It will be with grace. But the message will be brutal. That after 7 years, Ferrari couldn't deliver, not even once when it truly mattered. Meanwhile, Aston Martin has played this perfectly. They've made no noise, no leaks, just an offer. A structured multi-million-dollar contract that offers Leclerc everything Ferrari hasn't. Time, planning, a technical project backed by Newey and Honda, and the one thing every great driver needs: trust. They're not just offering him money, they're offering him belief. And that is something Ferrari has failed to give him in return for years of loyalty. The paddock knows what this could mean. If Leclerc accepts that offer, he becomes the centerpiece of Formula One's next great experiment. The same way Schumacher redefined Ferrari. The same way Hamilton rebuilt Mercedes. Leclerc at Aston Martin would be more than a transfer, it would be a shift in balance. A warning to every top team that the next generation of power in Formula One won't be shaped by legacy, but by logic.